Smoke and fire rise from Gaza, where the sound of bombs echoes like a warning of a fateful moment. A war is raging not just between nations, but seemingly between forces far beyond our understanding. As the Israel Defense Forces advance deep into Gaza, the world watches, not only because of the breaking news, but because of a question quietly resonating. Could this conflict be part of a plan written thousands of years ago? The Bible, the most ancient of books, once foretold days when Jerusalem would become the focus of every eye. Are we witnessing the final pages of that prophecy unfolding before us? When you read news about Gaza, about the wars and tensions in the Middle East, do you ever wonder, why does such a small piece of land hold such immense influence? Why do events in Israel make the whole world pause and take notice? What's happening isn't just military clashes. It's signs that may directly connect to the fate of you, me, and all of humanity. The Bible says every event, from wars to the rebirth of a nation, is part of a grand plan. And Gaza, with its smoke and sorrow, may hold the key to unlocking that truth. In this video, we'll explore how current events in Gaza connect to ancient prophecies, from a vision of a valley of dry bones to a glimpse of a final war. You'll see history and the Bible intertwine, revealing a story bigger than you can ignore. Hit that like button now to support this journey and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single discovery. A city engulfed in smoke and fire, where the roar of bombs never ceases and the glow of explosions lights up the night sky. That's Gaza today, a tiny strip of land at the heart of one of the world's fiercest conflicts. As the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, launch their ground invasion into Gaza, the world's attention is fixed here. News feeds are flooded with images of shattered buildings, roads torn apart by artillery, and thousands of residents fleeing a deadly line between life and death. An Israeli military commander once declared, "This isn't just a war, it's a battle for our destiny." But what if this war is more than a geopolitical struggle? What if what's unfolding in Gaza was written in the pages of ancient texts thousands of years ago? Could Gaza, with all its fire and pain, be part of a greater plan foretold in the days of the Bible? Israel's recent invasion of Gaza has shaken not only the Middle East, but the entire world. Reports from international organizations state that hundreds of thousands of Gaza residents have been forced to abandon their homes, seeking shelter in makeshift camps while the city's infrastructure lies in ruins. Helicopters, drones, and fighter jets relentlessly pound the area, creating a scene of unrelenting warfare. Yet what makes this event stand out isn't just its scale, but the deeper meaning behind it. While political analysts dissect Israel's strategic motives, from national security to territorial control, there's a perspective rarely discussed. Could this war be a step in a larger story, one scripted long ago? This question opens a stunning possibility. Gaza isn't just a hot spot on the world map. It's a piece of a prophetic puzzle in the Bible. To understand this, we must travel back in time, not just a few years, but thousands of years, to a land once called Philistia, where Gaza stood at its heart. In Genesis, the first book of the Bible, God made a covenant with Abraham, the father of the Israelite nation. He declared, "To your descendants I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates." This promise, recorded in Genesis 15:18, is not just a spiritual commitment, but a declaration of a vast territory encompassing areas now belonging to Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and parts of Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey. In Jewish tradition, this promise is known as Greater Israel, a concept that carries not only religious weight, but also profound influence on modern Israel's politics and culture. Yet turning this promise into reality comes with immense challenges, as these lands are now held by sovereign nations with their own histories, cultures, and governments. Could the invasion of Gaza be part of the ambition for Greater Israel? In recent years, Israeli leaders have emphasized the importance of defending and expanding national borders, driven not only by security concerns, but also by historical and religious significance. Some international commentators suggest that military actions in Gaza may be the first step in a long-term strategy to reassert control over lands seen as part of God's promise. For example, policies expanding settlements in the West Bank and military campaigns in Gaza are often viewed as efforts to strengthen Israel's regional influence. But what if these actions go beyond political calculations? What if they reflect a plan written in the Bible itself? This question might seem far-fetched to some, but consider this. Are today's leaders, whether knowingly or not, fulfilling prophecies from thousands of years ago? To answer, we must dig deeper into Gaza's history, a place once called Philistia, and uncover what the Bible says about this land. In the Bible, Gaza is no stranger. It was part of an ancient region called Philistia, a coastal territory that included 5 major cities: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. These cities were the stronghold of a powerful and enigmatic people, the Philistines. If you've heard the story of Samson and Delilah, you know the Philistines, fearsome enemies of Israel who dominated, oppressed, and even enslaved God's chosen people for centuries. Their strength lay in mastering iron technology, a leap ahead of the bronze weapons Israel used at the time. With sharp swords and deadly spears, the Philistines inflicted heavy defeats on Israel, from battlefield losses to periods of occupation. The prophet Amos, who lived over 3,000 years ago, received a powerful prophecy from God about Gaza's fate. In Amos 1:6-8, he wrote, "For 3 sins of Gaza, even for 4, I will not relent. I will send fire on the walls of Gaza that will consume her fortresses, and the remnant of the Philistines will perish." This prophecy wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration of inevitable destruction. When the Bible says, "I will not relent," it means God's judgment is final, with no chance of reversal. Fire will devour the walls, fortresses will crumble, and the Philistines will vanish entirely. Now, pause and reflect. Where are the Philistines today? Their culture, language, and beliefs have been erased from history. Only the name Gaza remains, a faint echo of a once mighty people. Is this mere coincidence, or proof that Amos's prophecy has come true, word for word? To clarify, consider the history. The Philistines weren't just any people. They were a seafaring nation, likely from Crete or other Mediterranean islands, according to biblical scholars. They built an advanced civilization in Philistia, with tightly organized cities and a robust economy based on trade and warfare. Yet despite their strength, the Bible predicted their downfall. Archaeologists confirm that by the 6th century BC, after conquests by empires like Babylon and later Alexander the Great, the Philistines faded from history. Their name survives only in biblical stories and a few archaeological relics. Gaza, once their pride, now carries a different meaning, one tied to Israel's destiny. In the Bible, Gaza is more than a city. It's a symbol, a line drawn in the sand, separating the land God promised to Israel from the forces opposing it. Since the time of the Judges, Gaza has been a stage for fierce conflicts between Israel and the Philistines. Recall the story of Samson in Judges 16. Samson, endowed with supernatural strength by God, went to Gaza and fell into Delilah's trap. Betrayed, he was captured by the Philistines, blinded, and chained in a Gaza prison. They brought him to the temple of their god Dagon to mock him, believing they had fully defeated Israel's hero. But in his final moment, Samson prayed for God to restore his strength. He braced himself against the temple's 2 pillars, cried out in desperate prayer, and pushed with all his might. The temple collapsed, killing thousands of Philistines, and Samson himself. Gaza, the place of his humiliation, became the site of his final vengeance. Samson's story isn't just about personal strength. It reflects a recurring pattern in Israel's history: conflict, defeat, and divine deliverance. As the heart of Philistia, Gaza has always symbolized opposition. In Judges 1:18 we read that the tribe of Judah once captured Gaza, but the victory was short-lived. The Philistines quickly reclaimed it, turning it into one of their impregnable strongholds. This history shows Gaza as more than a geographic point. It's a spiritual battleground where forces opposing God's plan continually challenge Israel. Today, Gaza remains a battleground. Modern conflicts between Israel and Gaza, from military campaigns to smaller skirmishes, seem to echo this ancient pattern. But what makes Gaza so significant? In the Bible, it's a boundary, not just physical, but spiritual. It represents the intersection of God's promise and the challenges of the outside world. As we witness the smoke and rubble in Gaza today, are we seeing history repeat itself, or a new chapter in a prophetic story being written? This question isn't just for historians or theologians. It's for all of us. Could what's happening in Gaza be a sign that an ancient prophecy is coming true before our eyes? A vast valley lies silent, blanketed with brittle, bleached bones under the scorching sun. No sound, no sign of life. Only death's heavy presence reigns. In this desolate space, a voice resounds, powerful and authoritative. Son of man, can these bones live? This is the question God posed to the prophet Ezekiel over 2,500 years ago in a vision that continues to astonish the world. Before Ezekiel stretches a scene of utter hopelessness, shattered bones, worn by time and sand, seemingly beyond any chance of restoration. By all logic, there's no way they could live again. Yet Ezekiel, with faith in God's power, responds, "O Lord, you alone know." This question doesn't just challenge Ezekiel. It unveils a miraculous possibility. A nation broken, scattered, and seemingly forgotten by history can be brought back to life. This vision came at one of Israel's darkest moments. In the 6th century BC, the Babylonian Empire invaded Jerusalem, destroying the temple, the spiritual heart of the nation, and exiling thousands of Jews. They lost their homeland, their identity, and felt abandoned by God. In this context, God's question to Ezekiel is more than a test of faith. It's a promise. Even when all seems lost, God can do the impossible. Ezekiel, a prophet among the exiles, became a witness to this vision, carrying a message of hope that Israel would not remain a forgotten people forever. The question about the dry bones isn't just for that era. It echoes today as we witness events that make this prophecy feel more alive than ever. God commanded Ezekiel, "Speak to these dry bones. I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall live. I will put sinews on you, make flesh grow upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you." Ezekiel obeyed, and a miracle unfolded. The ground trembled, a sound roared like thunder, and the bones began to move. They found one another, joining perfectly, vertebrae linked to spines, femurs to hips, ribs and skulls returning to their places. Sinews appeared, flesh grew, skin covered them, transforming a field of death into a valley of human forms. Yet they remained still, without breath, without life. God spoke again. "Call to the breath, come from the four winds and breathe into these slain, that they may live." As Ezekiel spoke, a mighty wind, the Ruach, God's breath, swept through the valley. The bodies began to breathe, stood up, and became a vast army, ready to fulfill God's purpose. Ezekiel 37:11-14 reveals the vision's meaning. "These bones are the whole house of Israel. They say, 'Our bones are dried up, our hope is lost. But I will open your graves, bring you back to the land of Israel, and put my spirit in you, that you may live.'" The dry bones represent Israel in exile, a people scattered, stripped of their homeland, temple, and identity. The graves God speaks of are the nations where the Jews were exiled, from Babylon to distant lands. The vision outlines 3 stages of restoration. First, the bones connect, signifying a physical return. Second, flesh and skin form, symbolizing national rebuilding. Finally, God's breath brings spiritual life. The Ruach, God's breath, is the key, not mere air, but the Spirit of God that once turned Adam from clay into a living being. This vision declares that Israel, though dead in the world's eyes, will be brought back to life by God. On May 14, 1948, an unprecedented event in human history took place. In Tel Aviv, David Ben-Gurion stood to proclaim the establishment of the State of Israel, marking the rebirth of a nation absent for nearly 2,000 years. The dry bones of Ezekiel's vision began to connect. Jews scattered across the globe, from the icy streets of Russia to the slums of North Africa, from war-torn Europe to far-off America, returned to their ancestral homeland. They came from over 100 countries, speaking different languages, carrying stories of persecution. The Holocaust, which claimed 6 million Jewish lives, seemed like the final blow to their hope. Yet from the ashes of that tragedy, Israel rose, just as foretold in Ezekiel 36:24. I will take you from the nations, gather you from all the lands, and bring you into your own land. Israel's re-establishment wasn't merely a political event. It carried profound prophetic significance. For thousands of years, Jews lived in exile, facing inquisitions, expulsions, and violence. In medieval Europe, they were confined to ghettos and forced to hide their identity. In the 20th century, the Holocaust pushed them to the brink of annihilation, yet through all this suffering, they clung to hope, sustained by the Passover prayer. Next year in Jerusalem. When Israel was reborn, Hebrew, a language once confined to rituals, came alive as the national tongue of millions. The barren desert of the land bloomed with orchards, advanced irrigation, and cutting-edge technology. According to data from Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from a parched land in 1948, Israel became a global leader in agricultural and technological exports. This echoes the prophecy in Isaiah 35:1. The wilderness will blossom like a lily. What makes this rebirth miraculous? It's not just a nation's return, it's evidence that prophecies from thousands of years ago are coming true. Is this merely a historical coincidence, or a sign that God's plan is unfolding step by step? Though Israel has fulfilled 2 stages of Ezekiel's vision, the physical return and national rebuilding, one critical stage remains: spiritual awakening. The bones have connected, flesh and skin have formed, but the breath of God, Ruach, has yet to fully fill the nation. In the vision, the army only truly lived when God's breath entered them. Likewise, while Israel today is strong politically and economically, it has not yet experienced the spiritual transformation foretold by the prophets. Jeremiah 31:33 declares, I will put my law in their hearts and write it on their minds. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. This prophecy speaks of a day when Israel not only returns to its land, but returns to God, recognizing the Messiah and living according to his purpose. Another prophet, Joel, spoke of this time in Joel 2:28. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your elders will dream dreams. This prophecy hints at a spiritual awakening not just for Israel, but spreading to the world. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, in Romans 11:25-26, explains that a partial hardening has come upon Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, and then all Israel will be saved. This points to a future event when Israel will recognize the Messiah and undergo a profound transformation. Surveys from the Pew Research Center show that only a small fraction of Jews in Israel currently believe in the Messiah's return, with many focusing on cultural and national values. The spiritual awakening, as prophesied, will be the climax of Israel's restoration journey. It will not only transform the nation, but impact the world, like a fire spreading from Jerusalem. When will this happen? The prophecies don't give an exact date, but they affirm that the day will come, and when it does, it will be a history-changing event. Do you sense we're drawing closer to that moment, when God's breath will revive not just Israel, but all of humanity? A simple yet powerful statement rang out over 2,000 years ago. Learn the lesson from the fig tree. When its branches become tender and its leaves sprout, you know that summer is near. These are the words of Jesus, recorded in Matthew 24:32-33, a prophecy carrying profound meaning about the last days. Israel is that fig tree, a vivid symbol of God's plan in the Bible. When its leaves sprouted on May 14, 1948, the day Israel was re-established after nearly 2,000 years of exile, the prophetic clock began to tick. This event was not just a historical milestone, but a clear sign that the world was entering a new phase where ancient prophecies started to come true. What makes this moment so significant? Why does a small nation like Israel command global attention as if the world is watching its every move? Israel's re-establishment was more than a nation's return. It marked a turning point in human history when a prophecy from thousands of years ago became reality. After the Holocaust, which claimed 6 million Jewish lives, many believed this people was erased forever. Yet from the ashes, Israel rose, just as the Bible foretold. Within decades, the nation not only survived, but thrived, becoming a hub for technology, agriculture, and security. According to data from Israel's Ministry of Economy, in 2020, Israel exported over $100 billion in goods, from high-tech software to agricultural products, transforming a once desert land into an economic marvel. But the fig tree's meaning goes beyond material success. It signals that the end times are approaching when global events begin to revolve around Jerusalem. Do you notice how every news story about Israel, every tension in the Middle East, feels like the ticking of a prophetic clock, drawing the world closer to a decisive moment? In Ezekiel 38, a terrifying vision appeared to the prophet. A coalition of nations, led by a mysterious figure named Gog from the land of Magog, gathers to attack Israel. This is not the ancient Israel, but a restored Israel, living securely in its land, without walls or fortifications. The Bible lists the nations in this alliance: Persia, now Iran; Cush, now Sudan; Put, now Libya; Gomer and Togarma, linked to modern-day Turkey. These names are not vague symbols. They are real nations existing on today's world map. They converge from all directions, north, south, east, with a single target: Jerusalem. But this is no ordinary war. Ezekiel calls it a divine appointment, where God declares, "I will put hooks in your jaws and bring you to my land, so the nations may know me." This war is not determined by human forces, but is a stage for God to display his power. As the Gog and Magog alliance advances, the Bible describes a series of supernatural events. A catastrophic earthquake that topples mountains, soldiers turning on each other in chaos, and fire and brimstone raining from the heavens. Israel won't need to defend itself, for God himself will fight for them. Zechariah 14:3-4 adds detail. The Lord will go out to battle as he fought in days of old. On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. This is the image of the Messiah returning, not as a suffering servant, but as a victorious king. Revelation 28 echoes the names Gog and Magog, describing a final rebellion of nations against God's people. Yet the outcome is certain. Fire from heaven will consume the enemy, and God's plan will prevail. This war is not just a future event. It's the climax of a story that began with Abraham, spans centuries, and points to a decisive moment. As news of tensions between Israel and nations like Iran or Turkey emerges, do you sense these signs aligning with prophecy? Israel is not just a nation on the map. In the Bible, it is called a light to the nations, Isaiah 42:6. A people chosen by God to carry His message to the world. In the end times, this role becomes clearer than ever. Revelation 7:4-8 reveals a stunning detail. 144,000 people, sealed from the 12 tribes of Israel, will rise as God's messengers, proclaiming truth during a time of tribulation. This is not a random symbolic number. The Bible specifies 12,000 from each tribe, totaling 144,000, chosen to bring light to a world engulfed in darkness and chaos. As seals are broken, trumpets sound, and humanity faces final judgments, these sealed ones will declare Christ as the true Messiah, not only to Israel, but to every nation. Israel's role extends beyond returning to its land. It lies in the spiritual mission God set when He called Abraham. In Isaiah 49:6, God says, "I will make you a light to the nations, that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth." In the end times, Israel will become the center of global redemption. Jerusalem, the city that witnessed the Messiah's crucifixion, will be where He returns. According to Israel's Ministry of Tourism, millions from around the world flock to Jerusalem each year, not just to visit, but to seek spiritual meaning. This small city remains the focal point of major religions and global conflicts. Is it mere chance that all eyes turn to Jerusalem as if it's the center of the universe? The Bible affirms that Israel's role is not just to exist, but to be a guiding flame, illuminating the path for humanity in the last days. Every news story about Israel, every conflict in Jerusalem, rings like a bell in the stream of history. Zechariah 12:2-3 describes Jerusalem as a cup that sends the surrounding nations reeling, and a heavy stone that causes nations to stumble. Today, we see this unfolding. Peace talks, border disputes, and diplomatic tensions involving Israel consistently capture global attention. According to United Nations reports, from 2000 to 2020, over 70% of General Assembly resolutions related to the Israel-Palestine conflict, underscoring the undeniable importance of this region. Why does such a small land wield such immense influence? The Bible answers, because Jerusalem is not just a city, but the stage where God's plan unfolds. Every event, from wars in Gaza to international alliances, feels like a piece of a prophetic puzzle. When nations like Iran openly challenge Israel, or protests erupt over Jerusalem, we can't help but wonder, are these the signs Ezekiel, Zechariah, and other prophets warned about? Each tension, each conflict, is a step toward the moment the Bible calls the day of the Lord. But the deeper question is, as Jerusalem becomes the world's focal point, as the prophetic clock ticks faster, where will you stand? Prophecy is not just about grand events, it's a personal call. In Matthew 24:44, Jesus warns, "Be ready, for the Son of Man will come at an hour you do not expect." What's happening today, from wars to the global focus on Israel, is a reminder that time does not stand still. Are you prepared to face what's coming when the final prophecy is fulfilled? From the fires of Gaza to the vision of dry bones coming to life, from Israel's rebirth to the prospect of a final era, we've journeyed through prophecies becoming reality. The Bible is not just an ancient book, it's a roadmap, a countdown clock, and a promise that everything happening has a purpose. Israel, as the light to the nations, stands at the heart of this plan, and every event today is a step toward the day when all prophecies will be fulfilled. Now it's your turn to share. How do these signs make you feel? Do you see a connection between today's events and what the Bible predicted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your story. Every comment is a way for us to dig deeper into the truth together. If this video opened a new perspective on history and the Bible, hit the like button to support us. Share it with friends, family, or anyone seeking meaning in the world's chaos. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Then click the next video on the bottom left of your screen to keep exploring the mysteries of prophecy.